and welcome back to File New, the best source of creator, artist, and tech news on Adobe Live. My name is Ryan Selvy, and today is June 5th. It's a Wednesday. What do we got in tune for you today? Well, we got a lot of really interesting stories. We've been away for a little bit, and it's exciting to be back. But on today's show, we have some visual design rules you can safely follow every time, some updates to the mobile version of Lightroom. We have some really cool art about a bubble wrap injected with acrylic paint. We have typefaces that are made for maps in mind. Last night, Aaron and I watched the documentary about Jim Henson, and I have some thoughts. Heads up for filmmakers, DJI drones might be banned in the US. Discord got a subtle brand refresh, and whatever this abomination is. So let's go ahead and get into our first segment, which is the news. So, right off of the heels of some really big news, you can now post to Instagram without anyone knowing you posted on Instagram. That's right. Basically, they're testing out a new feature where you can post and it doesn't go exactly to your followers. Instead, it will go to not your followers for 24 hours. It will provide some insights like reach and engagement, and then you can decide after that point whether or not you want to post it to your actual profile, or if you want to instead go and just archive it for no one to ever see again. This all happens within 24 hours. It'll show you plays, likes, comments, and shares. And I can't think of an exact example I would use this for, but it might help with the criticism of Instagram's reach, because everyone's always like, I want to get to my followers, but I also want to get reach. Like, which of the two is more important? And I guess with this, you're able to prioritize taking not followers and then testing out your content on them. And I guess show only the best of your best to your followers. I wish alternatively too, they would also have something that would be like, only show it to your Instagram followers and not reach, because that also would be good to know that all your followers can see stuff. But that's neither here or there. But maybe it's made for a whole new set of perfectionists that really want to test things out. And if that's got your attention because you're a perfectionist, I have some more perfectionist updates for you. Lightroom just came out last week or so with some new tools. Most notably, they announced Firefly-powered generative remove features into the mobile version of Lightroom. And you can now scribble out background distractions, and they're filled with Firefly generative fill. This can be really good for text. This can be really good for toddlers making weird faces in the background, or maybe you want to have like a really good picture with someone and there's like people in the background. You'd rather just have the entire space. And it's all on your phone, which is really cool. The AI-powered features are right in the Lightroom functionality of the mobile version. Also, they added some other AI-powered features like lens blur, and this is really cool. You can actually blur in the foreground or the background with a slider. That's what's showed over my left shoulder here. So you can see they have the cat and they have the blurred background. You can go and you can say, I want the cat to be blurred and have a focused background, or you could do the more traditional where the front is focused and the back is blurred. With that in mind, you also have control over expanding the style of the blur to something outside of just a regular blur. You can mess with the bokeh. You can make it like bubbly and circle if you want to. And then as far as other updates, they expanded tether support for new cameras, including the latest Sony digital cameras. They worked with HDR optimization, which sounds pretty techy, but it's just basically a high resolution format for shadows and highlights. Sometimes if you're on Instagram and you run across an HDR photo or video, you'll notice that like the whites of your Instagram will dim and the brightness on your phone will increase. Now this is their use case of replying to HDR. And basically Lightroom is now just also adding some more functionality to optimize how you export that on your phone so that you can have the best darks and the best highlights possible. Before we hop on to some more techie stuff, I do want to say hello to a bunch of people in the chat. It really means a lot to me that everyone is so active and saying hello. By all means, I love to hear your thoughts on this. Also, if you're listening to the replay, hello to you too. But hello to Pirjat and Megan Kissel over on YouTube, and then a flurry of people over on Instagram, not including everyone, but like Emily and Keys, Oliver, Umbercore, and Robert. Jack, thank you for being our moderator. It's great to have you here. But back into some news, because we have a lot to get through in only 1 hour. Apple came out with a new ad called Worlds Made on iPad. Now, we're not going to play the actual thing. I don't know how that works with legal and stuff, but it features an actor on a green screen with 3 different interpretations from 3 different animators. They even shared a behind-the-scenes look on YouTube, which shows basically just more or less the green screen recording, and then shows how they adapt different stuff to it. The reason this is a news story is because it seems to be a strong focus on animators and artists, which is important to note because Apple's having to do some PR adjusting after their advertising last month got a lot of flack. Now, if you are not familiar with the controversy, the ad in question took a hydraulic press and crushed a bunch of artistic instruments from like a piano and I think a violin, a game arcade, it's like emojis, cameras, and they smushed them all, and then it like reveals that it's this nice, clean iPad-esque thing at the end saying you can put all of this into the iPad. The artistic community did not respond well, and for a company like Apple, who has for so long taken pride in being like, we are the creative company, they've had a really tumultuous year, both with specifically Apple, but also just the idea of technology and artist communities seeming to clash in many places, and this ad did not sit well. So it's interesting to see them go and try to make something else that is leaning farther into the idea of artist forward and creation and acknowledging artists. This is all very properly timed as well too, because it's positioning itself as a creative hero as WWDC is coming up next week. Apple wants to be a positive light in the public eye before they have this developer conference. And if you don't know what WWDC is, it's the Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference. It's this Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's unlikely that we will see any new hardware or anything. We did have an iPad event a month ago, and that gave us the new iPad, the new pencil. We talked about that on previous shows. If you're interested in that, check it out. But this time it's anticipated to talk a lot about AI, which, as we will talk more in this episode and also just in general, it's something that's very controversial, obviously. Some are rumoring a partnership with Google. Others speculate Apple is leaning on OpenAI. Regardless, expect AI to be integrated in a new operating system in a new way for Apple. iOS 18 is expected to be announced for your phones, and they say it could be the biggest in the company's history, but they also kind of say that about everything, every time. So I don't even know what that means. But you can expect updates to Siri, home screen placements. Like, you should be able to move around your icons and not have them fall into the exact grid, so you have a little bit more control. Maybe change the colors of the icons. Generative AI being integrated into Messenger with like the same way that Meta is making emojis with generative stickers that you can make, AI-powered photo retouching, smarter song transitions, and more. These are all rumors. These have not been announced, but we will see where it goes, and I'll keep you guys updated next week after the fact if our predictions are true, or if, you know, everyone thought it was going in one way and it wasn't. A new operating system for computers will also be introduced, and you can be sure to see AI introduced in there as well, especially after Microsoft recently integrated AI so hard into their system. There's an AI button and a whole new type of chip to process AI on new Microsoft computers. There is a side story that we're not really going to talk about today, but basically Microsoft is taking a picture of everything you do every few seconds on your computer, so that way you can then go back to the large language model and ask them about things that you've done or searched on your computer. Lots of privacy concerns, security concerns came up about that, but it just goes to show you that these tech companies are really focused on getting AI into the absolute core of these topics and these systems. Speaking of Apple, that's where podcast comes from iPod, which I've always thought was really interesting. But I just want to announce that this is also uploaded as a podcast to wherever you listen to podcasts. So just look for the File New Show on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If file new is not where you listen to podcasts, please let me know, and I will make sure that I can get it out there and uploaded. But anyway, back to the news, back to X. Users can officially upload adult content to X. This comes from Ashley Belanger from Ars Technica. The company clarified the news last week because it's always kind of been a thing, but this time they're really clarifying it. And they said as long as the content is properly labeled and not prominently displayed, users can share adult material. This also includes AI and animated content, which I feel like is really important to artists. And we believe that users should be able to create, distribute, and consume material related to sexual themes as long as it's consensually produced and distributed, X said. They said that we have launched adult content and violent content policies to bring more clarity of our rules and transparencies into enforcement of these areas. These policies replace our former sensitive media and violent speech policies, but we enforce against hasn't changed. So it's just interesting to see how it plays out. I know that also even with art, when you're creating nudity in art, a lot of places you can't post it or it's questionable. And this obviously does a lot of talking for the adult industry, but I think as artists, it also really applies to the fact that you might be able to put something that isn't necessarily like stimulating, but is something that is focused on nudity or, you know, something that you're worried will be taken down from somewhere else. Interesting move. Moving on. A hacker group is trying to auction off data they stole from Christie's auction house. Reporting by Brian Buehler at ArtNet and Ray Nayar at Hyperlinks, Christie's alerted all affected individuals on May 30th. The hacker group, named Ransom Hub, tried to blackmail Christie's earlier, but it might not turn out to be anything. They said that there is no evidence that any financial or transactional records were taken for any clients. They said the personal identity data came from identification documents, for example, passports and driving license, provided as part of client ID checks, which Christie's is required to retain to compliance reasons. No ID photographs, no signatures, no email addresses or phone numbers were taken. So basically, they stole a bunch of information you'd find on your passport. So no emails, nothing to get contact through, just a bunch of names and maybe like their gender and birthdays. So they're auctioning it off now to then get the highest bidder to then pay off. And this is the hacker group, not Christie's. But it's unlikely that anyone will probably buy them because, like, why? I mean, just sit outside of Christie's and see who walks in, and that's the same information that you'll get. Like, why are you going to spend all money on that, you know? Also, over in the chat, Oliver says, I listen to my podcasts on cassette. If you want me to record this on cassette and mail it to you specifically, Oliver, since you've been around for so long, I will do it for you. I'll figure out the process, and we'll go from there. But that just sounds complicated for the sake of being complicated. Speaking of some weird news, we have the Ikea store opening up in Roblox. Now, we don't have to sit on this for a long time, but I do just want to add to the heap of, wow, Roblox is so big. Launching on June 24th, the Coworker game will allow players to experience working in Ikea's virtual universe. They say fans will be able to live their home furnishing dreams and get paid for it, with a limited number of paid roles available. Applications for paid roles in the co-working game are open from today until Sunday, June 16th. And application for roles in the virtual store are open, closed June 16th. Paid shifts for 10 new coworkers are up for grabs. Successful applicants will be able to flex their skills, help customers, and get promoted to move departments, just like in the real world. Everyone else gets to experience the showrooms and the virtual meatballs that you will be slinging, I suppose. Which, you know, some people might be looking for a job after some very surprising news that the University of Arts Philadelphia is abruptly closing after 150 years. And the keyword here is abruptly. This is reporting at Art Forum and Maya Pontone at Hyperlinks. Apparently, the university financially struggled after the pandemic, along with a lot of other art schools in the United States. The abrupt decision to close wasn't first internally communicated to staff or students. Many students, staff, and faculty all learned about it from social media or in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Illustration major Natalie DeFruscio told the New York Times, at 2:47 p.m. on Friday, I got an email asking me to apply for graduation, and at 6:03, the Inquirer posted the story that my school was closing. which is crazy to think about. I know that my alma mater apparently also is in the news as well for MICA and their financial status. So it just seems like it's a hard time for art schools. We'll see how this story progresses. If I hear more about other art schools closing, I will let you guys know. But let's go to some more traditional art. An artwork sold online for $1,000, and it turned out to be a $13 million long-lost Degas. The thrifter who bought it noticed the listing said it was a fake one, but was able to identify it as most likely an 1876 missing Degas painting, originally listed as $1 on this website that is not eBay. It was some other site that was foreign, and I don't know how to pronounce it. And it was named at $1, but ended up being sold for $1,000. The owner had inherited the painting, but didn't believe it could be genuine, but still provided some documentation of how they inherited the painting. And then, according to the reporting by Joe Lawson Tancred for ArtNet, they were able to identify it as a real Degas after an exhaustive analysis of pigments, a meticulous study carried out with x-rays and photographs, among other techniques. So, I mean, if you guys want to scour the internet and try to find a long-lost painting, that might work out for you. Evie saying, Ryan, 90s vibe glasses have me thinking back to glasses I used to wear, but I looked less cool. Well, these are also transitions. I literally got them just a few hours ago. I don't know how I feel about them because you can kind of still see they have tints. But I don't know. Well, maybe I'll get them just regular, and then I'll also have the transition ones because when they go outside, they get really dark, which is nice. But I feel like you can see that they're tints. What do you guys think? Anyway, thanks for the comment, Evie. Appreciate you. And then DJI drone operators beware. Uncle Sam might be shooting you down. The Chinese-based drone technology company is worried about a potential ban as soon as June of this year, which is this month. The official DJI account with over 4.1 million followers said that the bill would impact U.S. operators' access to DJI drones, and it applies to recreational, commercial, and government use. If DJI's FCC authorizations are revoked, U.S. operators would no longer be able to access new DJI drones, and their existing fleets may even need to be grounded. DJI then goes on to urge its audience to contact their local representatives in the U.S. House of Representatives, which is a total play from the TikTok book. So quick, if you are looking to record with drones, whether that is real estate videos or a wedding video, record them as fast as you can, because who knows if they'll still be around or you'll be able to fly them anytime soon. These are great machines. I will say we use them at my old agency for a bunch of different stuff. They're super powerful. I don't know the background to the whole legislation behind them, but it is crazy to see a piece of hardware potentially be bricked soon because of ongoing political conversations. And then let's go talk about Instagram again. And we're about to talk a lot about Instagram actually over this and on Thoughts, but let's just start with this. Instagram is having a hard time determining what is AI and what's simple Photoshop. This was reported by Natalie Fear at Creative Block. Some users are reporting their work is being automatically labeled as AI. Photographer Peter Yan experienced this when he was using Photoshop generative AI to clean up the image on an image and got flagged. This is something I use all the time to just quickly circle something and say, like, this is, you know, I want this gone. Kind of even like but the Lightroom thing we were just talking about. But it raises questions as to when we consider an image an AI image, when is it just a regular manipulated image. Instagram in general is having a rough month with AI. So let's actually just hop directly over that into our next segment, which is Thoughts. All right, guys, it's no secret. If this show is any indication, if the internet is any indication, I'm sure you guys know, there's no secret that Silicon Valley is excited about artificial intelligence. It is the thing that everyone is talking about in technology. Is it a bubble? Is it going to change the world? We will see. But in recent weeks and months, Google, Microsoft, and Meta have been finding ways to integrate their AI systems into the core functionality of their offerings. Google and Bing infamously have added it to their main search functions, and that's its own story with a bunch of weird things about telling people they should eat rocks each day for nutrition. But in today's episode, I really want to talk about Meta and how they've been trying to unify its app with the idea of AI tools across all of its services. So you'll notice that in Instagram, your search bar, which used to be just Instagram, is now different, and it has Ask Meta AI Anything on the top of it. And specifically, and this is where this news story comes from, Meta users in Europe have recently been able to offer the ability to opt out of their content being used to train AI and its to use. Let me start that over. Specifically, Meta users in Europe have recently been offered the ability to opt out of their content being used to train its AI model. However, US citizens have no option and are out of luck. As a response, you may have seen thousands of artists flocking and posting their work onto a new app called Cara, or Cara. If you guys know how to pronounce it, please let me know. Emily Poland saying the AI flags have been out of control. Oliver is saying, I think Instagram uses the metadata that Photoshop adds when you use AI. I don't get the same from using the new Generate in Lightroom because Lightroom doesn't add it in the metadata. So good to know. But Keith says rocks are good for you. Keeps you grounded. You're funny. Cara, the new social media and portfolio app that recently skyrocketed itself into the top 5 spot on the App Store, is really touting itself as anti-AI, fully human-made created content. Later, when I was writing the story, the time when I was looking at it, it was around 31. On this screenshot, it's number 11 for social networks. It's high up. I mean, it still takes a lot to get there on the charts. Regardless, its main focus is an AI-free feed. All posts are treated when you upload them with a gloss to prevent them from being used in AI. So you might have seen all of these people on Instagram posting to drop their Cara links and having people jump on over. I downloaded Cara. I have not uploaded anything myself, but I was able to go and follow like 40 people that I had already just been watching on Instagram, and they posted about it. I'm sure that number is double or triple for people who just didn't post about it. But it's clear that artists want agency over their work and to also see other verified non-AI pieces. And I love how the internet can kind of spontaneously at any moment manifest solutions to issues people care about en masse. Like if you get enough people, like people will move. But with that said, I also worry the internet can get distracted just as easily as it gets inspired to make change. I mean, like, who else really remembers like Ello or Google Plus or Meerkat and how quickly they kind of popped up for different solutions and then very quickly just turned into dead zones. You can see over my shoulder that the way that it looks is very similar to Instagram. Like if you squint, you might not even be able to tell which is which. And at the end of the day, we're all pawns to the algorithms, and people gravitate to the places where they can get their big engagement numbers. So spaces specifically for artists exist online, and they have their own communities, and they've had their own fair share of flourishing communities. I mean, look at Behance and countless others. But I often feel like Instagram wins at the end of the day because non-artists are there too, interacting with the media. I mean, with the algorithm, you have access to a whole different group of people with whole new numbers of engagement and opportunities. Artists create art for artists in the exclusive parties and out-of-reach auctions, but much of the art that you are familiar with is maybe like a Banksy in the middle of the street or the shows in public galleries at MoMA. I'm excited about a new place with a core mission, but I'm skeptical of its longevity, and social platforms take effort to invest in. It takes a lot to set up a profile and inject yourself into the ecosystem authentically and interact intentionally. To be laying in bed, standing in line at the grocery stores, honestly probably on the toilet, waiting on the subway platform, and not think I'm going to pull out Instagram, but instead think I'm going to intentionally pull out this thing specifically made for art is something that your brain has to readjust to, and it's a lot to ask for people en masse to be able to stay and keep up engagement. And I want to be really clear here. I'm not knocking it. I think it's very cool. I love the idea that I've popped on there and I've found so many cool artists already just by going through the feed. But I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to think that this is going to end all, invest all my time into it, and then it not turn into something else. What do you guys think, though? Have you set up a profile? Will you set up a profile? Have you already forgotten about it from this weekend? When's the last time you opened it if you got it this weekend? But Key says, man, I'm feeling anxiety about this launch. No joke. So many communities. Oliver said, I followed one person on Cara so far. Evie's talking about it being in dark mode and AI free, but doesn't have alt text yet. Guess it's more for art directors. it seems like a lot of people are having a strange connection with it. Evie's saying, I like a good change, especially if it's nicely arranged on my screen, which is also very true. It works well and it looks nice. But yeah, I'm interested. I'm on there. I'm Ryan Selvy. Like anything else, who knows how active I will be on there. Griffin's saying, I agree with you. I would like there to be competition to Instagram. And Apurva is saying, setting it up right now. So cool. I guess I will see you over there. But that is a lot of, I don't know, negative thoughts. And I want to be a good resource to artists, not just tear them down or tell them to not go towards stuff. So let's hop into our next section, which is a section where we just call it resources. All right, this is something that I really gravitate towards. Do you want some visual design rules you can safely follow every time you approach laying out something like a website or a magazine? Hi, Kyson. Look no further than a write-up by Anthony Hobday. 25 rules he says you do not have to follow every time. If you have a good reason to break any of them, do. But they are safe to follow every time. So, some examples are, number 1, use near black and near white instead of pure black and pure white, especially in digital situations. I have also run into this. I learned this a few years ago. It's a lot more pleasing on the eye. You might not even notice it until you grab an eyedropper and see what it looks like. But using an off-white or a near black can add a lot of depth, surprisingly, into what is your work. Colors in a palette should have a distinct brightness value. So not only should they have different ideas of, like, you know, blue, yellow, and green, but having, even if you change it into grayscale, having a different brightness value adds distinction, and you're able to identify them as different parts in the elements of your user interface. Measurements should be mathematically related. You shouldn't just be throwing them at the wall, whether that's a grid or a system where you increase alongside text or with objects. Make outer padding the same or more than inner padding. These are only a few. There are a whole handful. The link and all the other links are included in the raindrop that is connected to this description. So make sure you check it out, add it to your reading list, and let me know if you find any rules that you disagree with or any rules that you feel need to be on there that are not actually already there. But let's keep talking about rules of the world, rules of trends. And we and The Color wrote up the top 5 typography trends for 2024. It's written by Dirk Petzold, and like I said, it's from We and The Color. Number 1 is the comeback of serif fonts. They convey trust, reliability, and sophistication. Number 2 is the rise of deformed typefaces, which challenge conventional design norms and invite viewers to see typography in a new light. Number 3 is fonts inspired by nature, which reflect a growing emphasis on sustainability and eco-friendliness. Number 4 is some negative space typefaces with letter forms that convey a sleek and captivating visual, something that's more modern, feels more techno-futuristic. And number 5 is quirky typefaces should be used in conjunction with professional typefaces to add personality, but also be able to stretch the limits of, like, what is considered professional and what is kosher. You know, I really tend to like those as well. And then, do you guys have fonts on your mind that relate to these? Like, when I was mentioning these rules, do you feel like they are ones that you also are able to connect to? And do you feel like these are actually tied to trends? A lot of times people make these trends lists and stuff, and they're really, all subjective, obviously, and who knows if they're actually how they are. Also, you could pick some fonts and your boss might not be into it. How does your boss feel about those new fonts? How about your boss's boss? How do you talk to your boss's boss? Well, apparently like a client. That's what Katie Cadwell from It's Nights That suggests. She says, ultimately, your bosses don't want to hinder you from doing your job because that doesn't serve them or the business. Look to work with them, not against them. Stakeholder management is really similar to having clients. That makes it a great chance to practice that relationship and explore how you bring them on the journey with you. A huge part of the jobs as creatives is to educate those who don't understand design. It's obvious they'd like to be a part of the creative process, and the fact that your boss hasn't intervened suggests they have every right to be. But perhaps you need to look at how you're involving them. She suggests showing more work in progress work or find new ways to make them feel more involved in the process. But sometimes it's just better to freelance, baby. Creative Boom's Tom May wrote an article about freelancers' best kept secrets to thriving on your own. It's a great write-up they did in celebration of National Freelance Day, which is June 20th. Happy to all that celebrate. There's plenty to read, but here's an abbreviated version. You should check out the full article to read the write-ups of all of these rules, because there's 8 of them. But I'm just going to give you the headlines real quick. Number 1, take the leap. Pretty self-explanatory. I agree, and I tell people that all the time. If you're thinking about it, just do it. 2, find your niche. 3, start local, grow global. Number 4, manage your expectations. You're not going to be a millionaire overnight. You know, you gotta expect and plan for the time ahead. Number 5, establish value over cost. Your time is also valuable in its own way. Number 6 is network relentlessly, which I think could honestly even be number 1 or number 2. Networking is so important, as exhausting as it can be. Number 7, save for a rainy day. This is very important. Also save for taxes. That one's not on this list, but boy, oh boy, save for a rainy day and save for taxes, and save for the taxes that you don't expect that you have to spend, because, you know, I have an accountant, but sometimes I still owe more money. Number 8, have solid contracts. So these are the top 8. These are all ones that are mentioned in celebration of National Freelance Day, which is June 20th. Thank you to Tom May on Creative Boom for writing this up. I think it's very resourceful. But this is a lot of advice of this week's resources. How about I get you to something you can download? Look no further than to Font of the Week. So this week's Font of the Week is Mala by designer Barbara Bigoniska for, well, it's Bigosinska. Bigoniska. And it's for Bold Monday, and it's a map font. According to her own words, maps of any kind are complex and multi-layered sources of information. They're not read continuously like books, but use type in a very different way, which I never really thought about. But Mala is designed for exactly that. It comes in 32 styles and 3 different widths. And it can be used for labeling, distinction, and structuring of information. It has range to be used as a headline, body copy, and labels, which means it can adapt to many different use cases and many different scales. And it has the variety by designing all the styles. This is a picture of her, by the way. By designing all the styles to have ligatures, ornaments, arrows, different sets of numerals, fractions, and ordinals. You can see here that they, like for the M, you have the regular M, then you have a little swooshy M, and then you have a really swooshy M. It was designed between 2013 and 2016, but I think it has quite the timeless look. I say we can even actually, if you guys want to, we can, if you'd like, even hop over to Photoshop ever so quickly, and perhaps we can go and just check out what it looks like. So here we are. We have, let's do screen share without this thing. Here we go. And I'm going to go up here and go to my type. Where did my tools go? Where did my tools go, dude? Whoa. All right. Does anyone see my tools? I feel like a Blue's Clues. Oh, it's down here. It's like, do you see my tools? Are my tools behind me? They are? Wow. So we're going to go here, and we're going to switch to Mala. M-A-L-A. And these is available on your Creative Cloud subscription. This is Lorem Ipsum. Let's go in here. I'm just going to increase it like this. I'm going to hop over, and we're going to switch this to look at all the different things that we have here. We can go to medium. We can also go to like extra bold italic, which is nice. And then you can, like I said, you can go over, and when you see that it has this area down here where it like highlights, that normally means that there is some sort of variant that you can use for the typeface. So you can get about this many different ways. A lot of times if you highlight it, you can then click on the little icon that pops up. But if that doesn't pop up for whatever reason, you can always go down here to glyphs, and the glyphs will actually show you the entire available typeface options that are for this version. And here you can see where all of those swishy guys are. So we can put in any of these. You can scale them down or bring them down for your reference. And then it also includes a bunch of map symbols for you too, because after all, it is a map typeface. It has arrows, it has compasses, navigational system, and then it has a bunch of, actually, which is nice, a lot of typefaces don't have the punctuation. This actually has it, and it's really great. So once again, that is Mala, M-A-L-A. You can find it on your Creative Cloud subscription with Adobe Fonts. It is very cool. Evie says, I can get lost in choosing glyph alts. Yes. Jack loves the glyphs panel. I also agree. Yeah, everyone's laughing at my Blue's Clues. So it could look really good as a signature. It could look good as a lot of stuff. Kaisen says, I have a mobile. I think that when you use Express or something, you can also still use Typekit and Type. I say Typekit, but I think it hasn't been Typekit forever. I think it's Adobe Fonts still. But outside of fonts that you can install, one thing that I wanted to include on Font of the Week is this article on the print magazine, and it is by Stephen Heller. It is the Daily Heller, an homage to needlepoint typeface design. And, oh, you don't know what needlepoint timelessness is? Well, needlepoint was something that was very popular earlier in the 20th century. And there's a cool write-up on Print Magazine by Stephen Heller about it that is long before computers or print your own sign companies. There were these handmade embroidered typefaces people could use to make sayings on the wall or in fabric. And the typefaces were bitmap in nature, as they were based on a grid with spots to fill in and others to leave empty. So samplers could have the full alphabet, like this one over my shoulder, and you would be able to make it say whatever you want, because you would just follow the instructions that, as you see that the H is read here and not there. And then some of these had to influence bitmap fonts and typefaces down the road, because if not, like what else? Like these are beautiful, and they have a bunch of examples. I didn't include all of them. I just included these two, but check out the link in the description, and maybe we'll all get into needlepoint. But that's enough about the past. What about the future? I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about some upcoming shows and events in Ticketbooth. Photographer Phil Buehler has a fascination with the forgotten islands around Manhattan. Greta Rainbow, awesome last name, from Hyperallergic, says he's been capturing them on camera since 1974. He has a new solo show up in Hudson, New York, and it is at the Front Room Gallery. I would love to go see it if I'm able to get up there. But it has a bunch of amazing pictures of an abandoned Ellis Island. So if like this, now you can walk around as touristy as all heck. But this is from the 70s when it was completely abandoned, because Ellis Island was stopped being used, I think, in the 50s. So it sat there for 20 years, just like unused. And now it's a tourist place where you can go and you can actually learn about the history of Ellis Island. But it also includes a picture of an island off of Coney Island that's apparently owned by national parks now, that is really good for birds. It has some sunken ships off of Staten Island that looks like a, post-nuclear war situation. It combines these vintage photos alongside newer ones captured by drones, which I guess maybe he's probably worried about the DJI story. And they feel very forgotten and eerie and like, I don't know, kind of like the Myst game. But maybe I've been playing too much and watching too much Fallout. All really great stuff to watch. And New York is very much still alive, because these are all based around New York. And Hyperallergic also has 10 art shows to see in New York City this June. Also, welcome to Annika in the YouTube chat. Now, the cool thing about these is I grabbed a few of them. There's 10 shows in full, but I just grabbed a few ones that I thought were really interesting. The story of writing all of them up and the pictures and everything comes from the Hyperallergic team, and the article was written by Hakeem Bashara, Harag Vartarian, Julie Schneider, Danielle Larkin, and Keely Boyd. Here's a few call-outs. Egyptian ceramicist Ibrahim said his first major solo show Ibrahim Saeed has his first major solo show at 245th 10th Avenue with gravity-defying bowls and vase-like sculptures. There are these cool new woven works from different eras, including tapestries, featherwork, and fringe bags dating back to the 14th century BCE. I said these new, but it's literally older than any of the things that you can see in your room. And they're on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Bibi Zogby has photographs or painted flowers and plants on display at the Andrew Kreps Gallery. There are these Black Experience history-focused photographs by Nona Faustine, and that is available at the Brooklyn Museum. We have the Pasita Abad's mixed media artworks. They're at MoMA PS1 over in Long Island City. This signature works are comprised of maximalist oil and acrylic works backed with fabric and stitched together like a quilt. But I know that's only for a few of you. A lot of you don't live in New York, so don't worry. I also have some stuff for you digitally. Last night, I sat down and I watched the Jim Henson Idea Man documentary. It's for free on Disney Plus if you have Disney Plus. It takes a look at Jim Henson's personal archives, and filmmaker Ron Hauer, known for A Beautiful Mind and Apollo 13, is behind it. It has a 3.8 out of 5 on Letterboxd from 4,469 ratings, and its average score is 7.9 out of 10 from 679 ratings on IMDb. I watched it in the background. I would suggest watching it in the background because it's very repetitive in nature. They kind of say the same thing over and over again. Jim was smart. He didn't want to be pinholed into, children's entertainment, but he was so talented at it. But it was really cool to be able to see his archives and see just the Muppets are so funny, man. They're so funny. They're so smart. It was so, revolutionary in the way that they made them. It's 2 hours long. So like I said, if you're on your phone or if you're on your computer while you're watching it, I don't think you're going to miss much. You can pause and rewind. I don't think it's necessarily a 10 out of 10 where you sit down and you just watch the whole thing without anything else. You might. I'm not sure. But it is very good. It's worth your time. It's fun to watch. And they're neat. Also, Evie says those headsets, they bring back the funky headbands, for when they're using the microphones and stuff as they're doing the puppeteering. And it's very cool. So let's go ahead and hop on into hyperlinks. We've got like 10 minutes or so left. The first one is a Wikipedia page. It is the list of most expensive paintings. There are famous old master paintings, often held by museums, are considered priceless and rarely sold. Like the Mona Lisa was valued at $100 million in 1962. Adjusted for inflation, now that would probably be over $1 billion, literally $1 billion. But Vincent van Gogh, Pablo Picasso, and Andy Warhol are the most represented artists on the list. Georgia O'Keeffe holds the record for the highest price paid for a painting by a woman, with her Jimson Weed White Flower No. 1 sold for $44.4 million in 2014. Only 6 paintings are by non-Western artists, and they are among the top 84 listed, with the highest being Quinn by Shee's 12 landscape screens, sold for $140.8 million in 2017. It's really cool to be able to just flip through these and see what is really famous and really expensive, and the ones that are super expensive that you've never heard of in your entire life, and you're like, what am I uncultured? I don't know. Paintings are so inspiring, but I don't have millions of dollars hanging around to spend. Do you ever just get inspired by the world around you? How about your bus seat or train seat? This is what Julian Potart made an Instagram about. It's called I Don't Give a Seat, and it curates a collection of crazy, nauseating, beautiful, and hideous patterns from bus seats all around the world. Over 731 at the time of broadcasting. Some remind me of the website wallpapers of the early 2000s, like Mama Media. And it has carpeted public spaces of the 80s kind of feel, very whimsical. And they're just really fun to just scroll through and check out. Maybe they can inspire your designs, and you can see what you can bring back to life from the past, or from that coach bus that you're, taking down to Baltimore for $30. Don't do it, man. Just get on the train. Very whimsical, though. And we need more whimsical in the world in the same way the internet used to be whimsical. Which is really good news because the Tiny Awards are back. Last year, Matt and Christopher, no idea what their last name is because whoever they may be, was not listed on the website. You can click to go to their websites, but then they don't have their own names on their sites. So just take it for Matt and Christopher. And they made up a small prize to celebrate interesting, small, crafty internet projects and spaces, which basically make the web a more fun place to be. It took off, and now they're back for another year. Now they hope to continue to help spread the word about some of the small, personal, whimsical, weird, and poetic things people are making on what is left of the web. Nominations are open until June 23rd. You can get to it at tinyawards.net. There's a short list posted in July 19th alongside public voting, and winners are announced on August 18th. Can you think of anything you'd like to nominate? I kind of feel like that voicemail website we left a message on a few episodes ago would apply. Also, maybe just everything we've ever mentioned in hyperlink section could also pop up on this. But record these sites to history, and let's talk some more history with Rebrand. The Boston Red Sox. They're a classic American baseball team. Even their logo is pretty iconic, but you probably don't know what it used to look like. Joe Foley reports on the evolution of the Red Sox logo for Creative Block. From 1950 to 1960, it looked like an anthropomorphized monster. It looked like this thing, whatever this horrible abomination is. It has like a headband on it. Apparently the headband was to make it feel more Native American, which that's a whole nother issue in its own self. And it also has a tiny hat. So it's a headband and a tiny hat. I also, like, why does it have like Crimson Chin vibes? I'm not sure. Fortunately, they dropped whatever that was and have modified it as some variant of Red Sox from 1961 until their most recent rebrand in 2009. And when they did that, they just got rid of the baseball, and now it's just two Sox. But you can see that it started off as, I think it's interesting here, they started off as Boston, and then we're like, oh, we're going to do BA. And then they were like, no one knows what BA is after literally 1 year. We're going to go back to Boston. And then from there, it kind of just slowly made its way to where we are now. Of course, also that horrible monster that will give you nightmares. Anyway. The company Shell has been around also for a very long time, 124 years in fact, and is considered one of the most recognizable logos in the world. Logo Design Love did a quick run through of the iconic logo history, and I thought we could talk through it real quick as well. You can see that in 1900, it was like a scallop looking kind of shell, and it was coming down. It wasn't very recognizable, kind of just looks like a circle. And the thing that I really want to talk about here is both where the colors come from and why they got to where they are now. So the change happened sometime in like the 50s, where, well, actually the colors though date back to 1915 when the company constructed California Service Station, and it's thought that the colors were also meant to reflect the official Spanish colors, since many original Californian settlers were from Spain. It's also possible the colors are meant to reflect the royal standard of Scotland, so could be either, who knows. The iconic logo we're familiar with evolved with the fax machines and the need to have more simple shapes to be scaled down. So you can see that over time, logos and symbols got more and more simple because they could be scaled down, they could be scanned in fax machines, and now we are where we are with sans serif fonts for forever, even though we have the screens to see them. But now I'm sure you know that Shell looks like this. It's looked like this since basically 1971, and it was designed by Raymond Loewy, who also created logos for BP and Exxon, so that's just the gas guy. It's often showcased without a name, which is very unique to it. Like you think of Target or Nike or McDonald's, like these are the big boys that are recognizable, and I guess if it's not broken, you know, don't fix it. But that doesn't mean that all the other ones are unsuccessful. You can impact millions and still need a word mark. To that idea, look no further than Discord as an example. Discord got a brand refresh, and the social chat service just turned 9 years old. It initially started as a way to communicate while gaming, and gaming has become the largest form of entertainment in the world, bigger than movies and music combined. Discord is used by 200 million people every month. 90% of those users play video games, and they implemented new verbiage to reflect that. The colors of Discord have grown darker as well, which makes sense since nearly everyone uses dark mode for Discord, and their new tagline is group chat that's all fun and games. People have made some fun of it, and take it as you will. And then the one last thing I want to do for Rebrand real quick is Matchstick Brand Identity House has launched season 5 of the rebranding podcast called A Change of Brand. And A Change of Brand is a podcast about the world's most loved consumer companies and their rebrand glory, drama, or disaster. They make note to say that it's not just color palettes or typography. They talk with brand leaders and agency creatives to talk about the change. The first episode of season 5 explores Glassdoor with Deanna German, and it's just under an hour, and it's really well produced. I listened to it while I was prepping for the show. Very, very interesting. I can't wait to listen to all the other episodes. I just learned about it. Their previous episodes include Minecraft, Baskin Robbins, Visa, Sprite, M&M's, and PBS, among a bunch of other ones. We got about 5 minutes left, so let's hop on into Spotlight. So I thought we could maybe start actually highlighting some of the people that we are interviewing on Adobe Live throughout the week. I feel like that makes sense for Spotlight, since considering it's called Spotlight. Our first one is Amber Torrealba, and she is a professional skimboarder, director, and content creator based in California. She's a 3-time world skimboarding VIX champion. So, like, not only is she a filmmaker, she also is literally a world-renowned skimboarder, which I thought skimboarding was so cool when I was younger. Now I'm too old and lanky to be able to do it. She's at one point managed her own marketing agency. She has her own short available online called No One, which focuses on skimboarding and her journey across the world, or across the country. They talked about the short film called No One, and you can watch it on YouTube. And now she has grown in narrative storytelling and creative transitions, and they walk through how viewers can maybe not notice the small details that she has learned to notice and work with over time as she has this wonderful work. Like I said, it's called No One. It's very pretty. If anything else, even if you're not into skimboarding, you can get a lot out of it just from the sheer editing and the way that it's filmed. Also, you can follow her over on Instagram at Amber Torrealba, and she has beautiful pictures and beautiful videos that you can check out that are all around skimboarding naturally and her passion. Then next up, that was on Monday, and then on Tuesday, Unmesh Dinda is a Photoshop instructor and the founder of PiXimperfect. PiXimperfect has amassed 5 million subscribers on YouTube. Voodoo Val sat down with him yesterday to ask him about his journey. His tutorials and educational resources have been featured on sites like Adobe, Wacom, F-Stoppers, Shutterbug, among many others. And it has such amazing, if anything, I know that you said that your eardrums were hurt, Umacorn, and I'm sorry. But if you watch this interview with the two of them, his audio quality, I need to figure out his microphone. I need to figure out like how he sounds so lovely. I mean, he has over 950 videos on YouTube, so he obviously has his production figured out. But he's immensely smart. He learned through teaching, and it's really cool to be able to look at his work and how he has made a living on creating education for Photoshop while also learning Photoshop and just making it publicly accessible to everyone, which is really cool. And then very last, right before this, we had Oghale Alex, and he is a Nigerian-American creative director and photographer based in London and Los Angeles. He specializes in visual narratives for global brands, artists, and galleries. He says through the vehicle of photography, he aims to change negative perceptions surrounding Black men and women. His work has been published in magazines including Natal and Viewpoint Color Magazine, and he even exhibited in the National Portrait Gallery of England, as well as the 2022 Photo Vogue Festival. Photographer Idra Ekpo interviewed him right before this show, and they spoke about his artistic process, owning a business, his experience as a photographer, and his focus on calm as a common piece throughout all of his work. His pictures are just so pretty. Definitely suggest checking it out. And then the last thing that we have for today is Hyperallergic, the artist making masterpieces out of bubble wrap. And this comes from Maya Pontone on Hyperallergic. It was posted back in February, but I just found it out. It's about Bradley Hart, and what he does is he injects bubble wrap with acrylic paint to recreate historical paintings and portraits. It takes pointillism paintings and gives them an entirely new look. He preloads every syringe and numbers each individual bubble according to a corresponding chart, and then he works from the bottom to the top. And each piece actually ends up creating 2 pieces because the process creates a paint drip duplicate underneath, since he's needling and putting things in and is painting down in the back. So when he goes, he then removes it, and then it has this version, which is also like these really cool paint drippy parts. And he has 2 of them. Unfortunately, he is suffering from MS, so it's getting a little bit more difficult, but he continues to create work. He has people helping him out. He's also thinking about leveraging like robot arms and stuff, but I think it's really, really cool. Did you guys know that bubble wrap was actually initially invented as a texture wallpaper before it was used for packaging? It just goes to show you that you can create anything, and it can then turn into something completely different, which is fascinating. But that's all we have for today. Once again, I just want to remind you guys that this is available as a podcast. I will get it uploaded after the stream today, or you can check all the replays out on our playlist on the Adobe Live channel. This is the last of the streaming for today, but we will be back with File New again next week at the same exact time, same place. I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank everyone who was in the chat saying hello. Once again, my name is Ryan Selvy, RyanSelvy. You can find me on Instagram and on Blue Sky. On Blue Sky, I'm just RyanSelvy.com. You can get to everything for me about BlueSky.com. Jack Watson, thank you for being our moderator and for posting all the links. You can check out all of our links that we mentioned in this show today on the raindrop that is on there. You can also navigate to other episodes, and I'm adding them as they go. But thank you guys so much. Thank you to everyone in the chat, both on Behance and on YouTube. On Behance, thank you to Emily, Griffin, Jack, Keys, Misty, Oliver, Robert, Umacorn, and Evie. And thank you to Jaylene, Annika, Kyson, and Megan over on YouTube as well. Also, Elcat, thank you for being here. I'm about to press the button, so I can't affect the audio for it. So I'm sorry it's going to be loud, but thanks for watching. See you real soon.